viewers, and welcome back to Phil's Garage for episode 5 of this GS1000G restoration. If you haven't seen the other 4 episodes, then I suggest going back and having a look at those. It will make a lot more sense. In episode 4, what did we do? We finished off fixing the gear position indicator on the dash. And we cleaned and painted the crankcases. We received a few bits and pieces, but we were missing a vital O-ring that goes in the middle of the 2 halves of the crankcase. So hopefully that will arrive in this episode. So yeah, I've got my I Work With Tools t-shirt on. That's funny in Australia. I'm not sure whether that translates to other countries, but it's sort of funny here. But anyway, so yeah, let's get on with it and see if we can get this engine partially back together.
Now, I may have mentioned in a previous episode that somebody had partially stripped the sump plug. So rather than risk all the oil dumping out in front of the back wheel, I've decided to change the sump plug. So we're moving from an M14 threaded plug to an M16 threaded plug. Got this one with the little magnetic tip there to collect any bits. I've got a 14mm drill, and I've borrowed an M16 by 1.5 tap. So I'm going to drill that one out to 14mm, tap it to 16mm, put that one in, and we're fixed. Now, I was always taught when I did my apprenticeship that when you're tapping something, you go a quarter turn, then back it off to cut off the swarf. That's the way I'll do it. I see people putting taps in drills and just going for it. It makes me cringe. I guess probably works, but this is the way I was taught, so this is the way I'm going to do it. Seems to be going in straight, which is good. And hopefully it's a tight fit when we're done. Right, so you can probably see that that's now been tapped out. Quite a nice looking thread, and this M16 sump plug fits in there nicely. So that's another problem ticked off the list. Okay, so those of you who saw episode 1, I think that's where I showed it, where I got this fuel sender unit out of the tank, and yeah, it was pretty disgusting. As I said at the time, I've managed to get these sorts of things to work, but this one was, you know, it was way too corroded. So I just ended up just cutting it off and using this as the blank to seal off the tank when I was cleaning it and doing the new sealer. So I started looking around. I mean, the petrol gauge doesn't need to work, but I'd like it to work. So started looking around, and there was some second-hand ones on eBay, etc., but just asking stupid money, and you know, no guarantee that it actually worked. So I was looking at options. In fact, it sort of popped up on my feed when I was searching for this, and what I found was this thing, which is a fuel sender unit from a Suzuki, but not a Suzuki motorbike, a Suzuki
Samurai, which is a little 4-wheel drive thing from 85 to 95. So I looked at that and I thought, well, it looks very similar, especially this bit. So I think it was like $30 or something. So I thought, bugger it, I'll just buy one and see what turns up. So it turned up the other day, and sure enough, that is the same layout as the GS1000G. Obviously, it's slightly different design in here. It's designed to go into a fuel tank from the top, I assume, and sit like that, whereas this one sort of comes in from the side of the tank and runs down the side of the fuel tank and goes up and down like that. But people were asking, you know, a couple of $100 for second-hand ones, so I thought I'll just buy one of these. I reckon I can probably modify it to work. I've tested it electrically on the bike already, and it does, operate the fuel gauge correctly. So there's a bit of mucking around. I need to take this part of it off, make a bracket so that it can go right angles, and then obviously shorten this. Probably change the float, because the float is a bit smaller, which may help with the small gaps inside the tank. So, you know, for the sake of $30, I thought I'd give it a try, and so let's see what we can do with it. Okay, so making some progress. What I've done so far is to get this assembly off that plate, which was spot welded on there, so a bit of grinding and leveraging and stuff. I then got the old float off this mechanism and straightened out that wire, bent it at the right angle, at the right length, and fitted the old float onto there. This one's a bit bigger. So then I just need to work out where I need some sort of bracket to attach to the back of that to mount this, you know, in the best or the correct orientation, etc., so that it will work. So yeah, making a bit of progress, so we'll see how we go. Right, so this morning I've just made up this little bracket out of some 1mm sheet that I had. The plan, so I'm trying to replicate, this bracket here. So my plan is to mount that on there. Just going to do some tiny MIG welds in the on those flat bits, and then this mounts off that, coming off like that, and then theoretically that should work. I'm going to have to get rid of these little bits because I thought they bent that the correct way, but they bend the other way, so I'll get rid of them, and then I'll probably just pop rivet this bracket onto there, run a bit of wire through to here, and then we're done. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so I just did a couple of quick spots with the MIG to hold this bracket in place. So now it's just a matter of I think I'm going to pop rivet that to there, leave this cover on, and then work out how to get this fine wire from there down to this post down here. I've got a few ideas, so yeah, coming along all right. I think it will work. Okay, so as you can see, I have pop riveted that onto that little bracket that I made. I've then run a bit of copper wire from that terminal up through an insulator, and then soldered that to that fine wire coming off the rheostat. Now I don't think I'll be able to put this cover on because as you can see, it's slightly bigger than the original, and the hole to get this inside the tank is really tight, even with the original. So I'm going to have to leave that off, which I think will be okay. I mean, it certainly doesn't keep the fuel out or anything. It's just a cover. So anyway, worst case scenario is either the fuel gauge doesn't work,
or it'll be stuck on full, and I'll deal with that then. But I think it should be fine. So let's get it in the tank. Okay, so that's installed in the tank now. I've replaced these little M5 screws as they were stripped, which is lucky that it was the screw that was stripped and not the actual tank. And I just made up this little spade connector here, so we can run this down to where it connects to the wiring loom. I've measured the resistance, so with the tank sitting up straight, which is effectively empty, we're sitting at about 96 ohms, and then with the tank upside down, so the float right to the top, it's gone to 0, so we should get some sort of reading on the meter. So I think that's a success. We'll see if it leaks fuel when I fill it up. Okay, so there's the fuel gauge with the ignition on and the tank plugged in, and as you can see, the needle's right at the bottom of the range there. It has come up off the bottom, so it's reading something. So that looks good. We'll see how it goes once we fill up the tank, but that won't be until the engine's back in and whatever. But so far that looks like a success. Right, so in the last episode, I received a bunch of parts from Suzuki, a lot of seals and gaskets, etc., a new timing chain, and I thought I'd ordered everything I needed, but I forgot this one little O-ring that goes in here between the two halves of the case. So I ordered 2 of them. They finally arrived, so I can now, I think, put the 2 halves of the crankcase back together with the new crankshaft, new timing chain. So yeah, let's get on with that.
A few minutes later.
Okay, so crankshaft is in with the new seal, both ends, new timing chain, and this little O-ring that I've been waiting for. So I think it's time to give it a bit of a clean up, put some gasket maker around here, and then make sure these gear selectors are in the right position, so when we drop the bottom half on, the selector forks go in the right spot, and then we can start torquing it up. Okay, the bottom of the crankcase is back on. The gear selectors seem to be in the right spot. It's coming together, so now it's just a matter of putting in all of the bolts that hold it together, put the sump on, and then flip it over and do the bolts from the top. Okay, so all the bolts are in and they've all been torqued up to spec. So next is to put the sump back on. I've got a new gasket over here. So, and then we can put that on, torque up these bolts, and also torque up that new sump plug that I put in. So let's get and do that. Okay, sump is on, all torqued up, including the new sump plug, the new M16 sump plug. So now we flip it over and put the bolts in from the top. Right, that's all the bolts from the top end, all torqued up, and also the drive out to the drive shaft as well. Those are bolted back on and torqued up. So now we can start putting some of the side covers on, probably put the clutch on, the timing gear here, the flywheel, and starter motor drive gear, and get it starting to look a bit more like a motor again. Right, so flywheel's back on and torqued up. The gear drive for the starter motor is on with the washer behind it that I found in the sump. What else have we done? So this advance mechanism is on, and these 2 bearing retaining brackets are on. I couldn't find a torque setting for these screws. So I put a bit of Loctite on there and tightened them up to what I thought was reasonable. So maybe the next thing might be putting the clutch back in. Okay, so the clutch is mostly back in. I think I mentioned on a previous episode that I've measured all the clutch plates and the clutch springs, and they're all within spec, so the clutch is actually good. It's nice and oily, which is good. I don't have the special tool which goes around here to hold that in place while you tighten up this big nut that holds it in place. So basically I just put it into top gear and then put a big spanner on here to hold this, and then torque that up to the specified torque settings. Bent the tab over, so now we can put the rest of the clutch in and think about putting this side cover on. So let's do that. Okay, so we've got the clutch cover on. I've got this little cover over the ignition timing on temporarily just to protect it. I don't have the ignition plate in there. I'm just, I'll put that on later. Then on this side I have the stator cover on. I do have this little cover, but I haven't put that on yet. I've got to run the cable from the gear position assembly in there up through here and out. Now I think I said on an earlier episode I do have some genuine Suzuki emblems for either side of the motor. I bought these for my 750 project, but yeah, just the gold and silver wasn't really what I was after, so I went for the original, which was just black and silver. So I had these left over, so that's handy. I'll put them on probably last, I think, rather than damage them. So we're making good progress. Really, I'm waiting on a few tools to measure bores and do some work on the head, measure the pistons. I'll probably get new piston rings, but I just got to check the bores first, because if it needs a rebore, then there's no point buying rings now, as we may have to go oversize. So sort of come to a bit of a standstill, but yeah, made very good progress. So yeah, crankcase is back together, and all the side covers are on. So yeah, looking good, fingers crossed. Okay viewers, well, it's probably a good time to finish this video, because we made some really good progress yesterday, getting all the crankcase and everything, the bottom half of the engine back together. But as I said, I'm waiting on a few tools that I need to start doing some measurements and things on the top end. So I do have a dial bore gauge and vernier calipers, but I'm waiting for a micrometer, which would give me more accurate readings, so I can measure the bore a bit more accurately than using vernier calipers. What else? I bought a tool for doing the valve stem seals. I've done that with pliers before, but I thought I might as well buy the proper tool. And what else have I bought? A valve spring compressor that is more suitable to motorbikes. I do have one that I have used before, and I modified it from a car version, but it's a bit cumbersome. So I got one that's a little bit easier to use. So yeah, just waiting on those things to arrive, and we can measure the bore and work out whether we're within spec. The micrometer will be good for measuring the pistons as well. If they're all within spec, then I'll just change the valve stem seals and get new rings. I did put some of the rings in there and check the the end gap, and that was a little bit over recommended. So I might as well put some new rings in anyway. Probably give it a quick hone as well. So yeah, making really good progress. So thanks for watching. If you like this, give us a like below or subscribe to the channel. Let your mates know if they're interested in these old Suzukis and how you can restore them. So this is episode 5. We'll see you in episode 6. Thanks for watching.